So it looked like Caitlin Clark is being blamed for the epic fail for the
Adam Silver has now informed WNBA franchises that they are free to continue making free agency proposals even as the collective bargaining agreement remains in total disarray. That move amounts to the NBA commissioner stepping in, weakening player leverage, and signaling ownership to press ahead regardless. At the same time, players and members of the media have begun placing blame on Caitlin Clark for the collapse of negotiations, a narrative that reportedly pushed Silver to his limit. A league that capitalized on Clark's popularity to secure a massive $2.2 billion media rights package is now turning her into a convenient target to distract from its own mismanagement and failures.
hate Caitlin Clark with a passion, and I'm here to tell you right now, the hate is growing even stronger because many people in the Players Association and people in the media is blaming Caitlin Clark for potentially being the one holding out.
How out of touch do WNBA players have to be to fault the very athlete who revitalized their league for their inability to negotiate a workable labor deal? Adam Silver runs the NBA and oversees the WNBA as part of that role, witnessing decades of financial struggle in women's basketball while the NBA covered losses and kept operations afloat. Then Caitlin Clark arrived, and everything changed. Viewership skyrocketed, arenas filled to capacity, merchandise sales shattered previous records, and networks committed $2.2 billion for broadcasting rights. That's real transformative revenue. Money the WNBA had never even come close to seeing before Clark's emergence.
And this whole thing is backfiring on these players to the point where they couldn't even get a response from the owners. The owners are saying, let's move on free agency. They're trying to stop people from signing. It is a
CBA negotiations have now completely collapsed, with the deadline passing without any agreement. Players are demanding substantial revenue sharing to reflect the league's recent growth, while owners hesitate to commit long-term funds based on a single standout season. Union leadership faces clear conflicts of interest tied to competing business ventures. Yet somehow certain players and media figures have decided the problem is Caitlin Clark, not the negotiators, not the unrealistic demands, not the structural flaws. Clark, who is barely involved in the bargaining process, has become the scapegoat for the breakdown. Adam Silver's reaction spoke volumes. He directed WNBA teams to move ahead with free agency plans despite the expired CBA. This wasn't a casual suggestion, it was the league signaling, we'll keep going whether the union cooperates or not. Under existing U.S. labor law, the WNBA can issue qualifying offers to free agents using terms from the lapsed agreement while talks continue, giving ownership a level of leverage players apparently did not anticipate.
No. I feel like there has been a major disconnect between the commissioner and the players for a long time. And then if you have a star like Fee coming out and saying it, you know that it's really an issue. So I'm glad she did it. And we all supported her in it. We didn't know she was gonna do that. That was like
no, some gangster shit.
Yeah, I loved it. Especially like again.
But where has it gotten you now? What benefit has it done? Kathy Engelbert is not fired. You guys are not getting this 30% rev share and a $10.5 million salary cap. What benefit has all this mess brought to you guys? You don't have a deal. You're still under contract for next year. What benefit has this?
CBA negotiations have now completely collapsed, with the deadline passing without any agreement. Players are demanding substantial revenue sharing to reflect the league's recent growth, while owners hesitate to commit long-term funds based on a single standout season. Union leadership faces clear conflicts of interest tied to competing business ventures. Yet somehow certain players and media figures have decided the problem is Caitlin Clark, not the negotiators, not the unrealistic demands, not the structural flaws. Clark, who is barely involved in the bargaining process, has become the scapegoat for the breakdown. Adam Silver's reaction spoke volumes. He directed WNBA teams to move ahead with free agency plans despite the expired CBA. This wasn't a casual suggestion, it was the league signaling, we'll keep going whether the union cooperates or not. Under existing U.S. labor law, the WNBA can issue qualifying offers to free agents using terms from the lapsed agreement while talks continue, giving ownership a level of leverage players apparently did not anticipate.
As it was in 2024. In the summer of 2025, did First Take talk about any women's basketball? They talked about any of these sports shows. They talked about the first Angel Reese vs. Caitlin Clark game. They talked about
Caitlin Clark transformed the WNBA, bringing unprecedented attention, revenue, and opportunities. Yet now some players and media are absurdly blaming her for the complete breakdown of CBA negotiations. Her rookie season drew massive audiences, sold out arenas, shattered merchandise records, and secured a $2.2 billion media deal, the financial foundation that makes revenue sharing even possible. Without her impact, players wouldn't have leverage. The league would still be struggling to make minor adjustments. Adam Silver, frustrated by the union's unrealistic demands and the infighting, has instructed teams to move ahead with free agency despite the expired agreement, signaling that ownership is prepared to operate under existing legal frameworks regardless of union cooperation. Meanwhile, union leadership has faced obvious conflicts of interest, promoting competing ventures while undermining their own credibility, and many players have allowed jealousy to cloud strategic thinking. Clark, in stark contrast, has remained professional throughout, staying silent, making no public demands, and avoiding drama, highlighting her discipline and focus compared to those attacking the league or her. The reality is that the WNBA's success, momentum, and financial growth stem directly from Clark's influence, and blaming her for labor disputes is both misguided and desperate. Silver's move demonstrates that ownership isn't panicking. They're protecting the opportunity Clark created and ensuring the league continues operating. Players can refuse offers based on expired terms, but the league itself won't stall, and those who resented Clark may end up paying the price if the star walks away or the season collapses. This is a case study in organizational dysfunction, missed opportunity, and the contrast between leadership rooted in jealousy versus leadership built on professionalism and vision. Clark's rise didn't just save the WNBA, it created leverage, visibility, and momentum, and Silver's decision to push forward is a clear message. The league isn't going to let incompetence or scapegoating derail the progress she made. If you want to follow this power struggle as it unfolds, stay tuned, because the stakes are high and the drama is only beginning. The owners clearly understand what's at stake far better than many players seem to. They know that viewership will plummet if Clark leaves or if casual fans tune out during a drawn-out work stoppage. They recognize that sponsorship agreements were made based on projected growth that depends on sustained success, not a single breakout season. They understand that the league's financial stability is fragile and entirely reliant on maintaining the audience Clark brought in. That's why ownership is proceeding cautiously while players make demands that may not be realistic. Those who spent 2 seasons undermining Clark are about to face costly lessons about leverage and consequences. Their earning potential exists because she elevated the league, and their bargaining power depends on the ongoing growth she generated. If she chooses to play in Europe or step away from the dysfunction, everything collapses, and the players who resented her will suffer most, while she continues to thrive with endorsements and global opportunities. A 30 for 30 on how the WNBA's biggest star was somehow blamed for labor negotiation failures will be compelling. Union leadership undermining their own credibility, players letting jealousy cloud strategy, and media enabling scapegoating instead of holding negotiators accountable. Silver's move to allow free agency offers demonstrates he's done waiting for the union to act responsibly. The league is advancing operations under legal frameworks that give owners flexibility. Players can decline offers based on the expired CBA, but teams can still proceed with negotiations and preparations for the next season, rapidly eroding the leverage players assumed they had. Clark's silence amid all this is striking. She hasn't issued demands, threatened to sit out, or criticized league management publicly. She has maintained professionalism while chaos swirls around her. Contrast that with Kier, who attacks WNBA leadership on television while promoting her own competing league. The gap in conduct and focus is glaring. What makes this even more frustrating is that the entire situation was completely avoidable. The situation was completely avoidable. The WNBA had unprecedented momentum. Interest was surging, revenue was flowing, and new fans were fully engaged. All that was required was efficient negotiation to seize the opportunity. Instead, negotiations devolved into drawn-out battles, inconsistent messaging, glaring conflicts of interest, and scapegoating of the very player who made it all possible. Under labor law, owners can override players in certain situations, and Silver's directive to move forward with free agency shows they're ready to exercise that authority if needed. The union had bet that threatening work stoppages would force ownership to concede, but that strategy is quickly losing credibility as the league demonstrates it has options and isn't intimidated by union leverage. Employers often hold the advantage under labor law, especially when existing agreements allow continued operations. Operating under status quo terms while talks continue shifts the power dynamic. Players lose leverage if their only choices are to accept old terms or sit out. Blaming Clark is a desperate attempt to deflect responsibility. She didn't cause negotiations to fail. She created the financial context that makes them meaningful, delivering the revenue and attention that give players any leverage at all. Scapegoating her is transparent and pathetic, and Silver is clearly not tolerating it. His instruction to teams to proceed with free agency signals that the league will not collapse simply because union leadership has been ineffective. Players can choose to participate under existing terms or sit out and risk their earnings, but the league will continue moving forward because the opportunity Clark generated is too valuable to waste. Adam Silver has told WNBA teams to push ahead with free